As a Scrum Master, the Sprint Retrospective is a great forum. It's great for culture, it's great and full of energy, and it's an amazing tool and forum to drive continuous improvement within your team. What did you do? How can you improve? How can you get the team on board? How can the team own their own destiny to get to predictability? Today, we're covering the Sprint Retrospective, what it is, why you need to care about it, and how you can facilitate an amazing one to make your team drive forward continuous improvement. Hi guys, it's Dave here. Welcome back to Project Management 101. It's great to see you. We're continuing our Scrum Ceremonies series. So we've covered the daily stand-up, we've covered sprint planning, we've covered the sprint demo. Today we're going to talk about the Sprint Retrospective, and we're going to deep dive the different ways you can do it, the right way you should do it, and how you can drive continuous improvement activity within your Scrum team. Before we get started, I just want to thank you for all the engagement that we've had on the channel. We're growing the community and I'm so proud of what we're achieving together. Drop a like if you get some value out of today's video, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on future uploads. It really helps out the channel. So like always, with all of our Scrum series so far, we've talked about why. Why is the Sprint Retrospective important? What is the Sprint Retrospective? The Sprint Retrospective is a forum facilitated by the Scrum Master where the team, including the product owner, the development team and the Scrum Master, come together and reflect on the last iteration. It's an internal facing session within the Scrum team. It doesn't include any stakeholders or anybody who's not part of the team. So remember, product owner, Scrum Master and dev team only. It's facilitated by the Scrum Master, and the Scrum Master will help to keep conversation flowing. They'll build a framework that the team can work within to allow a great and successful focus session, to allow the team to reflect on maybe what went well, what didn't go so well, and what they want to change moving forwards. And we'll cover that in more detail as we talk about the flow of the meeting. So we know what it is and we know who attends. So what does it look like in real life? As we're coming at this from a project management delivery community, you might be a Scrum Master, you might be a delivery manager, you might have heard the term lessons learned. A Sprint Retrospective is very similar to a lessons learned, and in its purest form, and as kind of taught by Scrum if you like, for want of a better way to describe it, you think about this as maybe stop, start and continue. What are the things that we want to stop doing? What are the things we want to start doing? And what are the things that we want to continue doing because they're working for the team? And as a junior Scrum Master, as you're just starting to explore and experiment, that's probably the most simple way to approach this particular ceremony. Have that prepped. 3 Kanban board columns. Stop, start, continue, some post-it notes, and keep it really simple. We're going to talk about some principles that you need to underpin to successfully facilitate a sprint retrospective, and it's really important that you keep these at the heart of what you're doing. Up front, you need to think about creating a safe environment, one where people can talk openly and freely. I'm not talking about blame, but I am talking about open, honest, constructive feedback. And that's key. Being honest and being open is the only way that we can discuss the issues that are really impeding the team and holding them back. And I think getting that culture right really allows us to focus in on driving forward actual meaningful change within the team to move forward to predictability. So in that safe environment, where we can be open and honest, we need to keep the energy high. These can be really lengthy discussions that are really kind of in-depth. So keeping the energy high, keeping the emotion low, but driving forward a little bit of fun, maybe thinking about the framework that we're using as we're maturing beyond stop, start and continue, can help to just drive a different conversation, a little bit of a different sense in the team, and start to drive towards some strong positive culture. Like with any other ceremony, and to be honest, any meeting, it's great if everybody's in the room. Now, that can be physically, but if it's not physically, still being in the room, but being present, actively listening, being on camera, actively paying attention, ignoring all of the external noise, people pinging you on Microsoft Teams or Slack or whatever it is, but focused in on the conversation we're going to have, because that's where the value and the magic happens as a team. So we're in the room and we understand the environment we're trying to create. We want to be energetic. We're thinking about that safe space. We're thinking about the open and honest feedback, and we're all here and present. So now we're here, the Scrum Master is going to set the scene. If they come up with a particular way that they want to run the retrospective, and we'll cover a few ideas towards the end of the video, so make sure you stay tuned so you don't miss those. But you're going to set the scene about how the flow of the session is going to run. So if that's stop, start, continue, what are you stopping with? What do you want to do within that? How long do people have to capture things within that? What are we going to do once we've captured them? So setting the scene just with a bit of a kind of light touch agenda of this is the flow of the meeting will just help people to understand where they are and where they're getting to. And it's helping us to start with why around what we're going to do together. And also, we can be clear about roles. The product owner should input as much as the development team and the Scrum Master. Everybody's here for continuous improvement. What you need to be careful of is it doesn't just become a product owner moaning about the development team because they didn't get the feature they wanted. That's not a retrospective, that's criticism. So with that framework in place, now's the time to choose the tool that we're going to move forward. So when you're setting the scene, you'll set the scene for what you're doing. I've talked about stop, start, continue. Here's a few other ideas that you could think about implementing, and I suggest Google is your friend in this particular scenario. One of my favourites is the Sailboat retro. Draw out a big ship with a big sail, and then you've got a few different visual points that you can focus in on. What's the things that are pushing you forward, i.e. the wind, taking the sail and pushing you forward and keeping the momentum of the team? What are the things holding you back, the anchor? What are the things that the team can think about improving that's holding them back? And then the final part of that particular retro is thinking about what's ahead, what are the risks? Maybe there's some big rocks or icebergs in the water, and you can focus in using some visuals if you've got a whiteboard or a Miro board that will allow you to think holistically about your team overall and drive just for a different sort of conversation. That's a great one. Give it a try. Just hit it up on Google, you'll find some instructions, and then you can practice it and drop me a comment. Let me know how you get on. I'd love to hear about it. How about the hot air balloon retro? This one's really simple. We're going to draw out a picture of a hot air balloon. So a nice balloon on top, the basket underneath. The balloon, all the things that are making the team fly. Super positive, high energy. What are the things holding the team back? Think about the ballast on the basket itself that stops it going too high into outer space and bursting. They're the things holding the team back. So it gives us a really simple framework. And like I say, I've used this a number of times and it's always good fun. I quite like the hot air balloon kind of metaphor and picture personally when I'm working with Scrum teams. So give that one a try and drop me a comment. Let me know how you get on. Another of my favourites is the mountain climber. Think about that massive mountain peak. What are the obstacles in the way? Not only the obstacles in the way, what are the risks? And what are the things that can aid your progress as you ascend and descend? And I think that's a great way of visually thinking of it as a metaphor from the squad's perspective. How are they going to get up to the top of that hill? What does that look like? And great, it will drive some great discussion and some areas to focus in on with the Scrum team. So with those frameworks, we've got a few ideas that we can take forward, and do drop me a comment, let me know how you get on. I genuinely want to hear about it. Using that, and once we've captured some things, irrelevant of which technique you use, you've got some great discussion points, and here's a bit of a trap, so do watch out for it. It's very easy to get bogged down, and you need to work really hard to facilitate the conversation in the room as the Scrum Master. As a rule of thumb, you've got an hour for a 2-week sprint. You can an hour and a half for a 3-week sprint, 45 minutes for a 1-week sprint. So just be careful with time. You need to keep your eye on the clock. Maybe set timers, use whatever tools you've got available, whether it's your phone, whether it's your computer. If you're using Miro, it's got it built in. Use a timer, use a tool, hold back conversation so you get a little bit out and then you can capture some next steps. But avoid the rabbit holes because it is a trap and it's easy to fall into. And as a Scrum Master, it's our job to stop that from happening. Protect the time so you can maximise the valuable discussion without one loud voice in the room. That's a bit of an art form to learn to do. You need to let just enough conversation to happen and make sure all of the voices in the room are being heard, and capture some clear next steps as you're discussing different points within the retrospective. You need to be careful that you don't just focus on the negatives, so you need to balance your time. If you're using something like stop, start, continue, talk about stop for a bit. But it can be a bit of a moaning session if you only talk about stopping, because everybody's got a problem at that point. So bookend it. Think of a feedback sandwich. Something good, something negative, something good. How can you do that within a sprint retrospective is a great thing that you can practice and experiment with. Sometimes there can be a lot of issues. It's about honing in and focusing in on what are the tangible issues which are really affecting the team, rather than something just upset somebody on a particular day, because they're very different things. Some great techniques you can use to help dig into it and understand what the tangible thing is you could use the 5 whys technique. And that technique is really simple. I recommend you Google it, but basically it's asking the question why 5 times. I've got a problem with releasing to production. Why? Well, when I click go on the release, I always run into an issue and my code bombs out. Why? Well, I'm not sure my tests are executing properly. Why? I don't think I gave enough time in the sprint to write the tests in a way that was production ready. Why? Because I was under pressure to deliver another ticket, and I think I underestimated the time it was going to take to do the work to put the tests in. Great. So we've got an issue that we've just spotted by asking those 5 whys. Obviously, I've just made up that scenario, but you can see how it works in practice. Have a bit of a go. I use it all the time. I used it in a conversation with one of my team earlier this week, and it really helped just to get to what is the tangible nub of the issue. And great, okay, now you can talk about how do you move forward with that thing and what are the different ideas in a kind of coaching forum. I can't reiterate this enough. Avoid blame at all costs. It was that team's fault, it was that person, it was that thing, the world's going to end. Shut it down. It's rot in your culture. Shut it down. No blame. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if Bob pressed go on the release and it blew up the system. It doesn't matter. As a team, everybody failed. And that's okay, because we learn from the failure. So it's not about blame, it's about learning and growth together as a team. If you spot anybody blaming or even that blame language come in, shut it down very quickly. Let's move on, let's focus it to the right conversation. What can we learn from that? How do we avoid that happening again? No blame at all. Once you've worked through and understood all of the different nuances within the stop, start, continue, because that's what we're focusing on for this particular lesson, you really want to get the team to vote on where they think is the most important issues for the team to solve. So generally they'll focus on the stop area of the board and focus on what are the tangible things that are hurting them right now. So spend a few minutes, give them like 3 dots each, so do a bit of dot voting on the post-it notes or the Miro board, and there's some tools built into Miro to do that. And just let the guys do a quick vote. Set a timer so it doesn't take too long, and just watch out for groupthink, because that really creeps in here. And then just make sure that everybody's on the same page, whatever's upvoted the most, because then what you can do is dive into a bit of a problem-solving workshop using a tool like a Fishbone diagram to understand all of the different facets that are driving forward the potential issues and the root causes, and allow you to come up with some pragmatic solutions that you can use to solve the issue moving forwards. And that allows us to focus in, and I'm going to use the word tangible again because it's about tangibility, to actually carve out something that you can really do. And that could be somebody needs to go and have a conversation with somebody else in the organisation. There's a wider organisational barrier, and the Scrum Master might help with that. Or it could just be we need to work closely with the site reliability engineering team, for example, to get a better path to production. Great. That might not be quick, but it means we've got a starting point and a better conversation. And 2 or 3 or 4 sprints time, we might be more predictable. We might have a more solid environment, and we might just move forward that little bit quicker and that little bit more predictably. I think another important thing within this particular part is to not overload yourself. You will want to solve everything all the time for everyone. As a Scrum Master, it's natural. With delivery people, we want to help. We want the team to succeed. But I'm telling you, biting off more than you can chew will hurt the team even quicker. I promise you. So, that upvoting is really important. Vote on one thing, agree one tangible action together as a group that you can move forward into the next sprint. And then focus on just moving that needle by that 0.1% of a dial based on that continuous improvement action. And think about the way that you can measure it and talk about it as a group. How can we measure the improvement that we get if we make a change here? Does that change our velocity? Does it change our throughput? Does it change our burn down metrics? How can we measure it? What are the OKRs that we can put in place to validate that this change is going to move the dial on what we're working on? As we get to the point where we've done the voting, we've made a commitment towards that continuous improvement, it's time for a bit of culture, it's time for a bit of fun, it's time for a bit of music perhaps. If you've got time, maybe you can carve out a bit of time to go out together as a team. Teams that eat together, commit together and deliver together, and it's really important from a culture perspective that you don't forget that. Work can be full on 100% of the time. So carving out the time, speaking to your boss, we need a bit of time to do this stuff together as a team, especially in a Scrum team. It is super important. Don't be afraid to ask. You don't get if you don't ask. Eat cake, listen to some music, get together as a team, and remember you're all human. The better the connection we can drive together, the better the bond as we continue to work together and iterate our own relationships as a group over and over, multiple sprints at a time. As a Scrum Master, the Sprint Retrospective is 100% on our shoulders to make sure it's in the diary and well facilitated. So we will fail if we don't do it. And it's really important for the team, no matter how busy you are, you stop and you carve out that time and you make sure you focus in on celebrating some success, thinking about how you can do better next time and driving forward that continuous improvement. And don't forget all that high energy and the great relationships that you're going to build along the way, because they're the things that you're going to rely on when it's a bit tough and a bit hard and you need to get something out of the door. The team coming together, built on those months and months of doing retros and building great relationships, are the things that allow great teams to form and ultimately great deliveries to happen. On face value, out of all of the Scrum ceremonies, the Sprint Retrospective looks the easiest. I just run a stop, start, continue and I walk out of the door. The truth is, it's one of the most complex and challenging ceremonies for a Scrum Master to run. You've got to be on point on your organisational skills, your facilitation skills, you've got to be able to control a room, use emotional intelligence, recognise where you're going down rabbit holes, do the timekeeping, keep the conversation flowing, bring in the quiet people, shut down the loud people, and make an equal footing of psychological safety and great group conversation. It's harder than you think it might be. Practice makes perfect. And I still get it wrong, and sometimes I nail it and get it right. But practice, using different tools and techniques like we talked about, allow you to grow and allow your team to grow even stronger. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know, have I missed anything that I should be doing in my retrospectives? Maybe you're a waterfall project manager just thinking about playing with Scrum techniques. Maybe you could use this sort of framework in your next lessons learned exercise. Drop me a comment, let me know how you get on. I'd love to hear about it, and let's continue to keep growing the community around us so we all succeed. That's all for this week. Make sure you smash that like button if you get some value out of the video, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future uploads. I'm Dave. I'm so grateful for you tuning in and watching Project Management 101. I can't wait to see each and every one of you next week. From chaos to clarity, take care.